Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Clarence E. D. Eastfield here on the campus of York High School in Elmhurst, Illinois. Bobby Hessling to my left, AJ Swiatek. AJ, about 4 hours ago, we weren't sure if this game was going to get played, but here we are, and it's going to get played.
I think all the athletes on both sides are happy to see it happen. Of course, the JV affair that was supposed to go down prior to this one was canceled due to an alleged person on the Elmhurst University campus having possession of a shotgun. We've heard from York staff member Mrs. Young that it seems to have been a false alarm. Nonetheless, living another day in Elmhurst. The game's on. It's going to be a good one. We've got the Glenbard West Hilltoppers versus the York Dukes. Bobby, Glenbard West coming off a pretty brutal loss, but of course it's to the coveted new Trier program. If they're looking to bounce back here, looking to knock the Dukes off, give them their first loss of the season, what are they going to have to do to stop this York team that's really good on all sides of the field?
Yeah, it's true. You're right about that. They did have that first game of the season last night after a week of reschedulements, and they lost 15-4 to New Trier. We'll talk about that game later. But I think the one thing is they have to try to get into the defense of York. Because when we saw them play down or south, or when we saw York play down or south, the defense really didn't, do much. They just kind of sat there as the players, as the attackmen did their thing. As the face-off is won by Torreja, and Dukes start off going left to right.
And that's what Torreja does so well. I mean, we saw it in the other game here at home, but he is just so great at getting the Dukes possession early. And in a sport like lacrosse, so important to get the possession because shots on goal are going in at such a high rate.
Well, that too, and you have to mention that York keeps the ball in their end so much. And we saw this, I don't know if it's this Glenbard West goalie, no, it was the other goalie, that we weren't sure how much he would play tonight, but it looks to be number 0 that's in net for them.
Yeah, it does. That looks to be Matt Dugan out there. He's the senior in the net. Dukes taking their time in the offensive zone, no need to rush. Something they do so great. You see them moving through X, as you'll see them do here, going to that Dukes end zone, resetting the offense, and waiting until they get a look that they like, driving towards the crease.
I do think the good thing is Siegenthaler did say he was going to give it a go tonight with that left ankle injury, and I don't know if he is out there right now, but they will. So he will get some playing time tonight, that's always a good thing to have him and Ryder Matson both playing, because those two as a 1-2 punch is something special.
Man, I mean, they've been playing together since they were kids, Matson and Siegenthaler. Dad's actually founded the Elmhurst lacrosse program, and that's really what so many of these kids on the York team credit their love to lacrosse for. So props to them, props to their fathers as Glenbard West looking to get their first possession here, but it's stolen by Torreja.
Come on, Torreja pushes it, and a shot on. No, he scores! Siegenthaler right back to where he left off last Friday at St. Ignatius, and that's just what he does. That was perfectly executed.
Fake top left, fake top right, just buried it where the goalie wasn't saving it. We saw in the warm-ups it looked like the Glenbard West keeper was having a bit of trouble, to say the least. He was having a hard time saving some shots.
We've already got a timeout.
Dukes are getting loud. This is what they've done so well. Get off to the early lead and really don't even let the opposition feel like they have a chance to come back. We've seen Glenbard West beat the Dukes in a multitude of sports this year. Mm-hmm. Lacrosse seems to be the Dukes sport in 2021.
Yeah, you would hope so. And you mentioned Glenbard West is a really good team. And I talked to Josh Temple about the tough West Suburban, because you have teams of Glenbard West and Lyons Township. Sorry about that. We had some issues up here, but he says we want to walk into this game with a chip on our shoulder. We've lost to Glenbard West the past few years in a game we thought we should have won. This year we want to make it clear there is no doubt we're the best team in the West Suburban Conference, and that kind of makes sense that you want to walk into this game, you want to win the conference.
I mean, even more than that, this team had to take last year off for COVID. The year before, shut down in the semis. This team wants to do more than conference. This team wants to win sectionals, and it wants to go on to a potential state tournament, and you see them already so loud I mean, they have just been dominant throughout the season, and you wonder who is going to stop this York team. You see New Trier walk away with, I believe, a 15-4 victory.
You're right on that.
Over these Hilltoppers last night. I mean, New Trier, of course, always coveted as one of the top programs in the state, right up there with Neuqua Valley and Loyola. Exactly. But, I mean, the Dukes are really cementing their name in that top 5. We've seen a few years of dominance now, and it's only a matter of time before they finally walk away with that sectional championship. Bobby, I mean, I think it's easy to say that it's definitely possible this year, but what are your odds? What are you thinking for the Dukes?
Well, you're right, that shot went real wide of Andon Rieger, and you're right about that. There's so many good teams, and York thought they had their chance 2 years ago in that sectional where they lost to Glenbard West in the regular season, but they have a chance to win conference and then some, because this is just the beginning, and they're playing at a level they think they can play better on. And this is really first true test for them. I think they have a lot of high expectations as McNeil moves it around the crease to Andon Rieger, and just move it along the crease, back and forth. Siegenthaler scoops it up.
Once again, the Dukes is really taking their time in the offensive zone, already up a goal. You can see it's a different strategy than what we saw against Downers. This time around, they're opting to keep it slow. You definitely know that Canfield and company have planned for each and every game, and it's coming through here. Shot on goal.
That was a big save.
It is a big save. Now we'll have to see if Glenbard West could do anything with it. I mean, we see the ball in the Dukes offensive zone so often, and you'd think it would let this defense go in the shadows unnoticed, but I mean, that might be the best asset of this team. In the limited amount of times when teams like the Hilltoppers get it into the zone, as it looks like the Dukes are going to get possession back here, in the limited amount of time that other teams are in their offensive zone, this defense is lethal.
There's a flag that flew. I wonder if this is going to be a penalty on York. I think it might be. Both teams are exchanging hits. Both officials will discuss it over as they both threw massive flags. And yeah, York was opting to be a little more patient in this style. Let's see, who are they going to put in the box? Is that Tereja? I think it is.
Of course, the box standing in between two cones.
It's not like the NHL where there's an actual box. It's just two cones. It's pretty funny.
Gives them time to run right back onto the field. That's something Coach Freeney of the freshman team loves to tell you. Got to stay in between those cones, because the last thing you want is another penalty just for being in the wrong area.
Right, that would be something. And avoid the stupid mistakes. I think that's another thing York has to do, and they've done a really good job at that, where they're not offsides, they don't have too many guys on. As Downers, or that's not Downers, Glenbard West, pardon me. They moved along the crease.
That's Ben Cicero out there for the Hilltoppers. He's only a freshman, already getting extended time. It will be interesting to see if he could do anything here with the odd man rush, of course, that's generated by that Dukes penalty. Dukes defense staying dominant, regaining possession. They'll look to clear through the keeper.
That was a great job defensively by York.
Oh, and that's a mistake that can't happen. They had Snyder the entire time. He was holding the stick up. Just mishandled, and it's going to give these Hilltoppers another chance to score up a man.
Well, if York stays out of the box, and they're going to be full strength, as McNeil is on this side of the field. It's Will Sackett who's got it at the 35, and Glenbard West now, they want to push.
And you don't want to question any decisions made on the field. The players are tired, obviously harder to make the decision out there. I don't know how I feel about them waiting for the Dukes penalty to expire while they had possession. I mean, you want to push the pressure there. It's already been shown in this game alone how hard it is to score against a full-strength York defense. I don't understand the decision to wait for the extra guy to get back out there.
I was going to ask you, is there a science behind that? Because you obviously played lacrosse. Is there really a science behind it? Because you'd think you'd want to push the net. Is behind the net kind of a bad pass?
No, yeah. Hockey and lacrosse are really comparable in multiple ways, and it's just like hockey in the way that a lot of the goals that are actually capitalized, especially at the higher levels, are through those odd man rushes. That's how you get the goals, like in transition like this, and even more so when you have an opponent in the box. So when you automatically have an extra man, you're forcing the opponent to play a box-style defense where you really just get to pass around the horn until you get it to a shooter that you like. I don't understand why you wait for the York Duke to get back on the field. questionable decision-making at least to the Duke's ball at X.
There's Siegenthaler's McNeil ran the whole length of the field. McCann is calling for it, and he can rip it. No one was certain if he was going to play tonight because there were, people thought he had COVID, which he didn't. He just had a common cold. He just had the sniffles.
And that's how it goes these days.
You got to be extra cautious.
Yeah,
You're right.
Absolutely.
Because there's Andon Rieger moving into the end zone. I believe that's McCann at X. Up to Rieger. Again, York being a little more patient offensively. And you have a feeling Glenbard West knows, hey, we have to keep Matson and Siegenthaler both in check. Those are their two main guys, but it's not just them you have to keep in check. You have to keep in people like Lance, who thought about firing it. And also Andon Rieger.
And that's what's so interesting about that Matson and Siegenthaler duo. Not only are they both so talented on their own, they have that connection. They've been playing with each other for so long, and it opens up opportunities because teams start to overcompensate. They start to think, we cannot let Siegenthaler score. We can't let Matson rip it on an open net. So they start to overcompensate, shift the defense that way, and it leaves people like Rieger open at the X.
There's Siegenthaler again. Tries to go inside. Matson shoots. Oh, he hit the post.
That was a remarkable pass from Siegenthaler. Somehow got it in between three Glenbard West defenders, caught by Matson, just barely off the mark.
Yeah, hit the post is so tough as there is Rieger again, moves it behind the net. Haven't seen much of Blake Rieger tonight.
We saw a lot more of the youth in those games where the Dukes had the big leads.
Right.
As you predicted, Bobby, this has been a good one thus far. Only a 1-point lead for the Dukes, keeping the veterans out there. Other than Lance McCann, of course, sophomore, who really plays like a veteran. He is something special.
Well, the real special thing is there is an absolute herd of people in front of the net and a save by Glenbard West. That's a sloppy pass, and
it's exactly what we saw against Downers so often. Oh, and there's a Duke down on the field right by the goalie. It looks like something happened in that ground ball scrum.
I think that is Matson who...
Oh, man.
He's just slow to get up. Glenbard West coach, as you were looking down there, spiked his clipboard. So he was obviously frustrated about something, as I think it's another timeout. But you hope Matson's okay. You let him rest for a minute or two with 3:34 to go.
And, those sloppy clears, maybe he was distracted by Matson on the ground. Either way, that's what really cost Downers last affair with the Dukes. It's hard enough when you're up against guys like EJ on the defensive end, but you have to at least get it there. These teams are struggling to get it past the 50. That's why the Dukes, I really am a fan of their clear strategy where you see it in the hands of the long pulls, not consistently giving it back to the goalie. We saw so many times against the Downers where they'd have a chance to get past the 50, but the long pull would be afraid to pass the midline, just give it back to the goalie in the crease, reset, and eventually time would run out. It's Duke's ball, and now they have even more momentum.
Right, you need to mention with that defense, it's not just EJ. Josh Temple's another really good one.
Everett Snyder.
Yeah, Everett Snyder is another good one that you can work with. Reed Landgren is starting, and those three guys, and they're both big guys. They're not afraid to be physical, and you have names like Patrick St. Clair, who in the first Hinsdale Central game just absolutely decked a guy, no penalty. Refs let it slide.
That's lacrosse for you. It's not necessarily letting it slide. A lot of those hits are clean, and that's why it's such an entertaining sport.
I think that one is the guy St. Clair hit him in his back, and he hadn't had the ball yet.
Might have gotten away with one.
He might have gotten away with one.
Those blindside hits are dangerous in any sport, so...
And that was, I was up there. I was like, that is a huge hit. And to bring that physicality and to bring that energy, that's something what York needs. And up 1-0, that'd be something to get like another huge hit like that or a big stop down low to help Selfridge.
And that's really something the coaches will tell you at every level of any lacrosse program. You've got this stick, obviously, and you could hit people with it. That's the beauty of boys lacrosse. But it's some things like that, regardless if it was a penalty or not. What's really going to scare the players away is getting put on their butt. You know how tough these players are out there. All these guys are ripped. All these guys have been training all offseason. A hit of the stick in the moment is really not going to do much. You want to attack the wrists, and you want to be physical, and that's what every one of these Dukes defenders brings to the table. It is impressive.
And you mentioned working in the offseason. It's not just them putting in their own time doing it by themselves. They're playing with other kids. Here comes York back down the other way, another sloppy play, and I believe that's Adam Lefchek, who he ends up turning it over, and Glenbard West back down the other way. That's something that York would like to avoid.
Absolutely. I mean, with Canfield, it doesn't matter the score, up 1 or up 20. That mistake can happen, but certainly not in a situation like this. We have another flag, 2 flags up in the air.
I wonder who this one is on, because there was a York player who I think was down, and a Glenbard West player just flattened him. Might have been the other way around.
You saw Charles Morwowski of the Hilltoppers wanting the penalty call. He was almost celebrating when he saw the flag go up. But I agree, from up here it almost looked like the Duke player was on the ground. Potentially a penalty on both sides. The stripes are talking it out.
I believe that's Reed Langren that's walking over to the bench.
There's 2 Dukes over there.
Yeah, the other one looks to be Adam Lefchek.
If there's 2 Dukes who are going to be in the box, I mean, that's presumptive up here. That is a killer.
That is.
Up a goal. I mean, we'll have to see the call.
We'll have to see who goes where. Is it only a Hilltopper? Is it no one? Well, it's going to be, I believe it's York ball that's starting. And it is a Hilltopper.
Yeah, there's one less guy out there.
So York will be a man up, and that's where they have to take advantage. Being a man up, it's a prime opportunity to easily get a goal on this team.
And I'll tell you a difference you're going to notice right away on this possession. You're not going to see the Dukes opting for that Hilltoppers route. They are going to push the pressure. They're going to pass it around, get it to their shooter, and fire, and it looks like that's what they want to do already right here.
There is another Duke in the box, so maybe they're just even. I think that's Josh Temple that's in the box, so it's just...
Yeah, maybe it was a penalty on both sides.
Both are...
Yeah, both teams have 5 guys out there.
Okay. Another penalty. This one is going to be on Glenbard West. There's McCann. Thought about ripping it, doesn't, and that's Blake Rieger who rips it wide left, and officials got a flag, which I think they had too many men. That's just a mental mistake at that point. Too many men.
Oh, absolutely. That's something you never want to see in any sport. Duke's up a man now, up a point, 2:05 to go in this first quarter. Bobby, you predicted it would be a good one. It certainly has been. Low scoring compared to what we've seen in both these teams' affairs so far. Oh, man, that's got to be a caught pass. That looked like it was going to be ripped in there for a goal from Rieger. There it goes.
Scores.
Didn't matter. Looks like that is potentially Madsen.
That is Ryder Madsen, and go figure, it's him and Siegenthaler, the both of them with the first 2 goals of the game, and with a minute 48 to go to rip that one right by the goalie.
And, I mean, this is so special. We're looking at these 2 kids as the stars of the team. Obviously, they're stars all over, but you're looking at these 2 kids who have just such great connections on that offensive side of the field. They're both juniors. They're going to be back at this team next year, and I'll tell you firsthand right now, I've played against the kids, I've played with the kids. They're certainly special. I'll see Madsen and Siegenthaler. I could see them going to a multitude of colleges to play at the next level, potentially even at the PLL level after that. I mean, they are just both so dominant. It's going to be interesting. And you see sophomore, of course, Lance McCann will be back next year. Goalie Connor Selfridge, EJ Espinosa.
It's just even more chemistry for these guys. And that's something that Ryder mentioned when I talked to him earlier this week. He says, beyond that, we have been playing together for years. We have real good chemistry, only with just, a few practices. They didn't have like a full 2 weeks of practices or a bunch of off-season workouts. Granted, they had some of that, but they didn't have all of that. But like you mentioned, they've played with each other for years on a multitude of different travel teams, whether that be true as Troy Walker tried to get his stick on that one and intercept the ball.
the theme continues. We haven't seen the Hilltoppers really get any quality shots on goal. We haven't seen any teams get too many quality shots on goal against these Dukes. Wow. And I mean, I'll tell you what, I was about to say that wasn't another quality shot.
That just beat Selfridge to his left.
That's something Selfridge would like to have back. That was not a hard shot by any means. Didn't seem like there was any picks by any of the attack. I mean, Selfridge had a clear vision on it. Just blowing past him. You could tell he's frustrated with himself. Duke's still up 1, but we're in for a good one.
Torreja will take the face-off, and we continue to talk about how York played a little more patiently. They've really had the ball in their end the whole time, so it's kind of feel like the playing field is a little more on their side more than it is Glenbard West. Here comes Torreja with his good speed.
Got 30 seconds to go here. Duke's in no kind of rush. You know they love to work that offense through the X. They're already doing it again here, trying to get a defender to rotate out of position and get them a short stick on short stick action with one of their attacks.
Now 15 seconds to go.
Got to get something on goal here. Keep the pressure applied.
Behind the net looks. Siegenthaler works his way through, try to get a shot on, and that will be the first quarter.
And, 8 seconds left there. Siegenthaler trying to be the hero. Not much else you could ask. Doesn't end up working out, but he does have a goal in this one. Duke's on top 2-1 after one. Bobby, this is going to be interesting. We've seen the Dukes really just annihilate teams all season. Hilltoppers keeping it interesting. If they want to get themselves on the board yet again and potentially overtake the Dukes for this lead, what are they going to have to do?
I think the one thing that Glenbard West is going to have to do is take better shots and really push the defense of York and get them down into the crease, even though that would, I don't know how possible that is with York because it's just the way they play. But we're going to take a timeout as they will. Second quarter is next here on YSN. Start the second quarter here from Elmhurst. It is 2-1 York over Glenbard West, and it's been this close game. It's been a fun one thus far. The field, I would say, is much more tilted in York's favor as Charlie Torreja gets himself tied up in a face-off. Glenbard West will take it down the other way.
In case you're just tuning in, Glenbard West on your screen is the team in gray, Dukes in white. Of course, both these teams very similar color schemes with the white and green.
Glenbard West just a little bit more of that darker shade of green. It's a little odd that they don't wear dark green as their primary road jersey, but nonetheless, York has the ball, and they will try to get something and, try to force a shot on net against this Glenbard West team. Glenbard West defensively, by the looks of it, and I think you could agree with me on this, they aren't as physical as York when they get into the crease.
I would agree with that, but they've done a really good job keeping the Dukes away from that crease. You see them consistently pushing out and keeping them on those hashes. It's making this really hard for the Dukes to get any quality shots. I mean, they're taking their time. They're doing everything right. But, I mean, this defense is just rotating so well, and it looks like everyone can match up everyone as there's an odd man rush.
Terrell with a shot that just missed the net to the right. And York will stay with the ball. You're right, they have done a job. They've done a good job rotating, and there really hasn't been a York man open, and both teams have been really physical, trying to, get down low. And because York first down or south, they could have get within 3 feet of the goalie, and they just easily put it in. As there's McNeil, a shot that just bounces. I think that went over and wide of the net.
I do like that from up top there, though. McNeil shooting overhand. If that bouncer was a little more refined, that would have been perfect. I mean, would have almost sniped the top corner. Those bounce shots so hard to stop.
He ripped it from about 15 feet out, or 15 yards out.
Exactly, and if you're having a hard time getting close to the crease, that's a good alternative option. Almost looked like he wanted it again there.
Especially if you can knock down those shots from, 20 feet out. There's a shot. He scores! That might be Matson again.
It wouldn't surprise me, and it certainly is Ryder Matson's second goal. Duo's already got 3 on the board. All 3 York Dukes scored by that junior attack duo of Siegenthaler and Matson. Matson 2 straight now. Dukes on top 3-1 with 9:52 to go. We're back.
Puckett took the face-off, didn't win it, and Glenbard West they will look for an answer.
It's a bit of an oddity. 2 straight lost face-offs for the Dukes. You saw Trey Hall lose one. Maybe he's tired, or maybe they decided to try to get a different stick in there. And Puckett doesn't work out. Now it's the Hilltoppers with possession, trying to get a shot on net.
At the break, you talked about how good this team was because Troy Walker's been playing. There he is with his long stick, playing defense, and he's a guy that can, not only does he play D, he can play almost anything out there.
And just to clarify, I'm not saying they're good because Troy wasn't on the field. It shows how good they were that Troy, this freak of nature, isn't a starter. I mean,
right.
It's unreal. And as you mentioned, he has a deep hole, but he actually isn't playing defense. Troy Walker plays a long stick midi. So for anyone who's unfamiliar with that term, he has the long pole, but he actually goes across the 50-yard line. So he plays both offense and defense, but just opts to use the long pole for that extra length, that extra strength, and that extra grit on the edge.
This is a shot that missed. Selfridge scoops it up, and behind the net, he will look to clear it. And he flings it up
to Snyder. That was a beautiful pass from Selfridge all the way from the corner across field. That's not easy with a deep goalie stick like that. Just
Siegenthaler scores.
Siegenthaler has 2. Matson has 2. What can this duo not do? Dukes 4, Hilltoppers 1.
That was a beautiful goal by Siegenthaler. Glenbard West defense was a little back because the great pass by Selfridge to move it up into the hands of Wolf, who then passed it up along to Siegenthaler, and Siegenthaler just manages to work in, and the easy inside shot, he beats it right over the goalie. So I think that's what York really has to do, take advantage of the odd man rush.
And that's how you score in a sport like lacrosse. After all that rotating, after all that slow play, all it takes is one good transition like that. It works out. Dukes get on the board. This face-off, man, Glenbard West, giving the Dukes a bit of trouble, though. Not something we're used to saying this season. And this is certainly a good time for the Hilltoppers to start winning some draws. They're going to need to start getting some points on the board, and what better way to do it than starting every possession with possession of the ball.
York's defense will try to get another stop. Glenbard West, too. Try to get in, and that's a bad pass, and Selfridge again will have the opportunity to clear it.
Sloppy play there from the Dukes results in a scrum near the 40-yard line in their own zone. Question is who will come up with the ground ball, and it looks like the Dukes do. Get it back to Selfridge, who is there but doesn't gain possession.
That was a poor pass by Espinoza. That's a little hard with his to commit those like shorter passes. He's much more to throwing it 40, 50 yards down the field. You hope that doesn't cost the Dukes a goal.
Certainly. Now you see the Hilltoppers trying to capitalize on that. Once again, I really don't like how they had that look by the crease but opted to reset it outside. Maybe if you're the team up 4-1, that's a potential strategy. But down by 3, they've got to get some pressure on Selfridge and company. They've had a hard time doing so.
You're absolutely right about that. And trying to get an opportunity here, but they just can't get inside that 10-yard line. They've been stuck to really get into the 15, and prime chance and beats Selfridge 5-hole.
That was a beautiful pass from Will Sackett, the senior for the Hilltoppers. He's in X just perfectly, lobs it up over the goal, gets a 5-hole on Selfridge. And I'll tell you what, if I'm the Hilltoppers, I'll keep attacking Selfridge. That's 2 straight shots that really seem to be easier saves from what we're used to from Connor Selfridge. Maybe having an off night. If I'm the Hilltoppers, just go, go, go. Get the shots on net while he's still a little bit cold.
Right, that makes sense. 6:35 left in the second quarter. And Torreja will take the face-off.
See Walker in there again at long stick midi. Canfield loves to have him in there on the draw. It's so physical. If it does result in a ground ball, he'll likely come up with it as he does there.
That was right on cue.
Call me Tony Romo back at home.
And Walker, you mentioned he's so physical. He's a very lean kid. He isn't, the way he's built, he just doesn't look like someone that would be that type of kid. As McNeil's shot goes wide of the net, much more of that, what's the best way to put it? I wouldn't say he's skinny, but he's very lean is the best way I can put it.
Looks can be deceiving, my friend Bobby Hessling, because Troy is a tough kid.
Yeah.
Big reason that freshman team, when he was a freshman, went undefeated. He was just able to put in that long stick and easily get the Dukes possession every time past the midline. And as we've talked about, possession in the game of lacrosse is more vital than anything.
Absolutely. Keep it in this end. He make the defense tired. And that's what they've done with Glenbard West, is really exhaust this defenses. Torreja's shot got blocked.
This Glenbard West defense has honestly looked pretty sharp. That's one of many blocks we've seen, and we've seen them cause some bad shots and turnovers. It's really what they've got to do is start capitalizing on the offensive end, because even when they're getting the shots on goal, they've seemed to be going in. They're just having a hard time generating those.
Well, I'm also sure they're very frustrated on how they played last night, especially the second half. As Siegenthaler's shot, he scored.
I'll tell you what, that's a hat trick for Siegenthaler. Mattsson's got 2. The scoring's between 2 kids, and it seems like this isn't much of Dukes versus Hilltoppers. This is Mattson versus Siegenthaler to see who can get more, and it almost seems like they're assisting each other on every goal.
First, it's only been them. It's only been Siegenthaler and Mattson. We're going to take a timeout here on YSN. 5-2, York ahead of Glenbard West.
We're back. Duke's on top 5-2. We've seen quite the showing. In case you're just tuning in, Will Siegenthaler's first game back from his ankle injury. Already a hat trick in the first half. His buddy Ryder Mattsson's got 2 of his own. All 5 goals from the York Dukes coming from 2 players, Bobby. You predicted it going into this one that they'd have a big night. What made you see that? I mean, is it just that they're that talented, or is there something in this Glenbard West defense that made you think they'd go through the attack?
Well, I would say it's a mixture of both, AJ. I think that they're both very talented. There's Siegenthaler again, and that was a save by the goalie. It was a little hard to tell. But also Glenbard West defense, the way they played against New Trier, because I watched part of that game. They played well in the first half, very well executed. But in the second half, they kind of let their foot off the gas a little bit. Maybe because they got tired, allowing 11 goals. Granted, it's the number 1 team in the state, but that seems almost unacceptable.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to mention. Yes, the Hilltoppers own 1 coming into this one, already down 3 to the Dukes. Let's say worst comes to worst for them, and they do end up walking away with a loss here today. That 0-2 record is not a good indicator of how talented this squad is. I mean, we've seen much worse 0-2 teams than the Hilltoppers. They'll be competitive all season. There's no doubt in my mind they'll finish with a winning record. They've just got to get it all together, getting their footing in, and, of course, a hard way to do it against the number 1 team in New Trier and likely a top 4 team in the Dukes.
Right, and the newest rankings out of Team Illinois Lacrosse came out today. York was 5th, but New Trier and Loyola tied for 1st. So it was more like the Dukes were 4th. That's a save by Selfridge. A big one, too. He just got clobbered, and I think that was Torreja who just got clobbered. But Glenbard West, the first 2 games, you have to play New Trier. It's like, okay, well, all right, hopefully our next one is a little easier. Now you have to play York. It's like, okay, well, we wish that wasn't the case. But they had their very first 2 games rescheduled versus, I believe, Hinsdale Central and, LT, which... Hinsdale Central and LT.
That's what I was just going to say. It's not
kind of tune-up games.
Oh, gosh. But, I mean...
Hinsdale Central more than LT.
Yeah. Well, what I was just going to say is those are competitive schools as well. I mean, right. Really all these teams have built up their lacrosse programs. It's a newer sport to the conference in a way. I mean, we've seen cross-country in the conference for centuries now, but...
Basketball,
football. Lacrosse is a newer upcoming sport. Really, it's not. It's been around for years, but it's getting more popular in Illinois, getting more popular in the country as of late.
It's much more of an East Coast sport that's worked its way west.
Absolutely. You see that in the college level with Maryland, Johns Hopkins. I mean, those are 2 schools, sure, maybe they're in the top 25 for a different sport every once in a while, but they run lacrosse. Cornell, Maryland, Johns Hopkins. You see those teams consistently landing all the top guys. Of course, York's very own Coach Freeney went to Cornell back in quite a while ago. He will never fail to tell you that.
Yeah. Freeney won. He's the freshman coach. And he's one heck of a guy. He's such a fun guy. And,
yeah.
As lacrosse coach, when I remember I first met, I was like, really, you're a lacrosse coach? Because it was just interesting to me. Because he's a little bit older, and you don't expect the older guys to know much about lacrosse.
Well, I'll tell you what, Bobby, you might not look like he plays lacrosse, but back in Cornell at 78, he sure did.
Are you using your Coach Freeney impression, too?
That wasn't my best Freeney impression. I've got more up my sleeve. But
we'll worry about those for later.
Yeah, exactly. I won't have to bear him with that. But Freeney, great guy, great coach. A big reason a lot of these veterans on the team are who they are because Coach Freeney groomed them on the freshman team, freshman coach for the York Dukes lacrosse program.
Glenbard West is in a penalty right now, so York is a man up and a prime opportunity to go up 6-2 even before entering the half, which I still think would be a great accomplishment. There's a shot by Mattson. Did he score? Was he
2 hat tricks.
He scored.
That's 2 hat tricks. Mattson's got 3. Siegenthaler's got 3. Who's going to outpace the other? Only time will tell, but it looks like both of these players could end up with more goals than the entirety of the Hilltoppers, entirety of the rest of the Dukes team. They are on tonight. They're constantly on. They flipped the switch. Hopefully it carries over for the rest of the season, and it really, hopefully, it translates on that Team Illinois top 5.
Right, and you also mentioned who's going to outpace the other. I think we should start asking who's going to score another goal for York besides Siegenthaler and Mattson. Is McCann going to score? Is McNeil going to score? Is even Torreja going to score? Or is it just going to be those 2 guys? Which I do think if it's just those 2 guys, you look at that like, okay, they're both really talented. but you can't those just can't be the two guys that are bailing you out game in and game out.
Exactly. I mean, this is Glenbard West. It is a talented team, but against a team like New Trier, where they're going to have that length, they're going to have that grit, they're going to be trunky, they're going to be able to get you down on the attack. You're going to have everyone get in on the action, and that's why the Dukes are so great. You see different leading scorers consistently. Sure, the Siegenthaler-Madsen duo is so special, but you've seen Rieger leading goals, both of them, Blake and Andon. Of course, Blake, Andon's younger brother. We have a couple brother duos on this team, also the Wicklows. So you see all sorts of people able to score, all sorts of people able to shut down. Dukes, I believe, have Loyola on the schedule later in the year.
The last game.
Last game of the season. I mean, that's going to be a fun one. Is it at home?
It is at home.
So we'll be on the call for that.
We will. That's
going to be fun, but what I was getting at is, against a team like Loyola, you're not going to be able to have two players scoring the goals almost at halftime. You're going to have spread scoring, and the Dukes are certainly capable of doing so.
When we go into that game versus Loyola, we're going to have a lot to talk about. And the big
might have to go live 30 minutes early.
Right. It's going to be the amount of depth. And I think Ryder really touched on that well when I also talked to him. He said we have a lot of depth. When I asked him why is the offense so good? He says our midfielders having several lines of very skilled midfielders who bring different skill sets to the table, like shooters and dodgers, and etc. That's the reason why we've been so good offensively. And you just can agree with that. That pass is a little too high, and it is a turnover. But you would agree that York has a lot of skilled midfielders.
And this entire Dukes team, really, for the most part, stays humble as well. You see Madsen often playing attack. They'll be quick to point out other assets of the team that are great. He's like, oh, well, the offense is so great because of the midfielders. I guarantee you the middies would say the same thing about the attack. They'd all say the same thing about that great anchor of a defense. This Dukes team plays as one, and it's certainly worked out so far.
Yeah, because they'll play as a team. They have a lot of respect for each other, and Glenbard West goalie is at the 40. It would be something if they turn it over and you give it to Madsen, just empty net buries it. That'd be something.
Gotta have a lot of confidence. Why is he still just hanging out at the 35? Just slowly backpedaling. I mean, one click move, he's got to be sprinting back.
You have a E.J. Espinoza goal from the 30. As there is Josh Temple who moves it up. I believe that was Temple. That might have been Walker.
And this is already coming to effect. He has to run back into the crease. He's not in his position he wants to be. Gets it to Madsen over the middle. That is a goal for you. Oh, my goodness. Wow. Bobby's jaw is dropped. That's what happens when you're way out of the crease like that. I don't want to discredit that goal, but what are you doing?
That was a beautiful. He was mid-air when he just threw it.
He caught it mid-air, catches it behind his head, just rips it. SportsCenter top 10 from Madsen, not top 10 on the other side.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Why is he so far out? That's just beautiful by York. I was stunned. You're absolutely right. I saw that. And, it's hard enough to, do that being so close, but to be in mid-air and do that, unbelievable. Torreya face-off, he will win it. And another chance to get a goal and go up by 6 with 30 seconds before halftime.
Man, Ryder up to 4 goals. Siegenthaler still sitting with 3. All 7 goals scored by 2 players. You got to wonder when that trend's going to snap. They've really been taking most of the shots, too. I mean, why not? When you're that on fire, that's Siegenthaler firing too high. He's down in the crease. Whistle blown.
Oh, a late flag. So that's going to be a penalty on Glenbard West.
And I don't want to assume anything's happening that it's not, because we don't know what's going down from up here, but I'm starting to wonder if the goalie was up there. He was talking to those Dukes players, because it almost seemed like right after Ryder's goal, you saw the attackmen look at each other like, I told you so. Like, you saw the goalie certainly standing near the Dukes talking to him. Maybe that's why he's up there at the 35, and maybe that's why this game's getting so chippy with 12.2 to go to half.
And it's a fun conference game. We expected it to be, I wouldn't say a classic, but we expect it to be a fun and exciting game to watch, and it has been just that. And, you have a guy in the box with 12.2.
And the Dukes have certainly shown they could capitalize in short timerages like this. Timerages, probably not a word. But they've shown that they could capitalize in short time frames like this.
There you go.
We'll have to see if they could do so here.
I guess they will let the clock run out.
No need to apply the pressure, up 7-2. Bobby, Dukes up 5. Madsen, Siegenthaler, all 7 of the goals. This has been entertaining to see the least, not only in the booth, but as a York fan. This team is so special. The fact they're up 5.
And they're having fun doing it. They're out there. They're jumping around. There is so much energy, and it is I wouldn't say packed, but for COVID times, there's a good amount of people here supporting this York team.
The word's getting out about York Lacrosse. They're beating a good program like Glenbard West by 5 at the half, likely due in part to Siegenthaler and Madsen. Duke's looking to stay undefeated, looking to ride that out as long as possible. AJ Swiatek, Bobby Hessling on the call. We'll be on the call all year for these lacrosse games at home. Dukes 7-2 at halftime. York Sports Network will take a halftime break with the Dukes.
Start of the second half here from Elmhurst. It is, the game has already started.
The clock isn't running. I will be right back. I'm going to tell the clock guy.
No, now it's running.
There we go.
Yeah, that was very confusing. I thought there would have been a face-off or something. We were just all confused out there.
Well, I can tell you I believe there wasn't a face-off because Glenbard West still has a guy in the box.
That's right. That makes sense.
So the ball started over there.
York will try to get a shot.
See the goalie cradling. He's trying to do it by himself. He gets laid out, and that's a flag.
I think that was Siegenthaler who's going to go to the box.
There's something going on down there between the goalie and those York attackmen.
Yeah.
You don't see Siegenthaler try to lay a guy out like that often.
I think he was just trying to get the ball out of the goalie's stick.
You don't see a goalie that far out of the crease trying to cradle through a whole team very often.
Right, yeah, which is a very odd decision. You think you would, I remember Joey Cornell in 2019, the former York goalie. He would go to maybe about the 40 when there was no one there.
And even that's considered wild at this point.
Yeah, I would still a little.
But there's three guys. You're
strange.
Trying to one-hand cradle it. You're the goaltender. You gotta know your role. Luckily for him, it results in a penalty, gets the men even, and gets the Hilltoppers the ball.
Also not the easiest to cradle with that goalie stick as that shot just goes by. I think that took a funny bounce off a player.
Yeah, it looked like it went off the stick of a Duke out there.
Yeah, I don't know how you can cradle with that goalie stick where is it the webbing or is it the netting? What would be the best adjective to describe?
Well, I'll tell you what most people call it, the pocket.
The pocket, all right, thank you. It's a very big pocket.
Yes, it is, and it's not made for cradling.
No.
It's made to make saves, and that's why they have such a big head on the stick.
Odd man rush and just over the crossbar. Andon Rieger thought he had a chance to bury it, but just went over his head, and York will retain possession. Neither Rieger with a goal, which is definitely oddly strange to say.
But at the same time, only two Dukes with a goal.
Back to even strength as Siegenthaler is out of the box.
Neither teams capitalize on their possession with the power play.
I think that just goes again to great defense.
Absolutely.
On both sides.
Tereha.
I was going to say there's Tereha. Andon Rieger, who plays on the right side of that net very often.
But what you got to learn about Andon Rieger, in case you haven't watched any of these Dukes games so far, he'll start on that right side, but he really prefers to play X. And he really forces his way over there. As you might see that here, he likes to run down the sideline, passes it off there. But a lot of the times what you'll see from Rieger is he'll rotate everyone around himself, trying to get a short stick on him so he can go to work from beyond the net.
There's Tereha. And Andon Rieger, I do think, is one of those guys that when he has a good chance on net, he can rip it from about 15 yards out.
Really, all these Dukes could do that. That's why this is such a special team we're watching right now on the York Sports Network.
Here comes Glenbard. What that goalie is way up. The defenseman was farther back than the goalie was, which very strange.
Yeah, you've got to wonder what the strategy is there. You still see the tender just standing out there. The 30 last time resulted in a highlight goal for Madsen. In case you missed it, it's one of the best goals I've seen all year from the Dukes. Madsen midair, snagged it, buried it because the goalie was still running back to the crease and wasn't able to get his feet in the right position.
I think Glenbard West only has 5 guys. Or did I count wrong? No, they have 6 now. I thought they had 5 for a moment.
Now, that was just you displaying your math skills.
Oh, yeah. Well, also, the gray and white kind of, blend when they're together. Also, my defense.
Certainly. Both teams' accent colors being green. I could see where you went wrong. No problem.
Yeah. If York was wearing the Kelly green, that's a little easier to make out compared to, white on gray. Is that one wide of the net? We'll stay down here with Glenbard West.
Hilltoppers down by 5, 8:15 to go in case you're just joining us. Looking to try to get something going here. When they've got shots on goal, they've been buried not the best outing from Connor Selfridge. Not that many shots on goal, but they've been little rinky-dinkers that have gone, and that is a fast man running over the midline.
Just knocked down. I think that was Chase McNeil who was running his end, and Rieger throws his stick, couldn't get anything. Lance McCann in there, and Lance is a very physical kid, and this ball's up in the ice. Spoke to Lance the other day.
That's McCann coming out with it.
Goodness. And I was like, I asked him, what's the impact you want to make on varsity for the fact that he's only a sophomore? He would have been on varsity as a freshman last. He says, it doesn't matter what grade you in or how old you are. You just put in the work and great things will happen. So much more of an inspirational quote to a point than
Absolutely. I was thinking the same thing.
Than the impact he wants to make, which I was like, okay, I guess that's fine. First interview. And
buried once again.
Matson again. I didn't see the net move, so I didn't think it was a goal.
Wow. I mean, the same duo just continues to score. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but 6-point lead, all 8 of those points off the stick of 2 Dukes. Going to take Bobby's word for that one, that it was Ryder Madsen. So if it's wrong,
blame me.
Blame it on Mr. Hessling. Only a few more months here at York.
Did you say? Yeah, then that would be Ryder Madsen.
Just got confirmation from our cameraman that was Ryder Madsen burying the goal.
Glenbard West, I think, went too early.
Clearly there. You got to let him set up. Just tried to run through it. Once again, the fatigue factor really never sets in too hard for these Dukes. Just consistently having bigger benches than other teams. In a sport where you have so many lines of midfielders running back and forth, it can only help you to have a big bench. It really can.
Right, and that goes back to depth. But I wonder, is Glenbard West a little fatigued after playing last night over a very tough team, and they probably used a lot of guys, and the bench isn't, from what we're looking at, it's not as deep compared to York. It's still pretty deep, but it's not as deep. But then you're playing in this game tonight, you're playing back-to-back tough games. Do you think there is a fatigue factor for Glenbard West?
Oh, certainly. And, I mean, another thing that's not factored in enough, I feel, by fans of all sports. Sure, there's not going to be the crowd noise that you're used to with the effects of COVID. But, I mean, it's almost fatiguing just to have to take a bus all the way from Glenbard to Elmhurst. I mean, that alone factors into a home field advantage. That's why you see at the biggest levels, teams with the home field still walk away with the winning record in nearly all sports because they don't have to travel that distance. They're just already in their zone at the stadium and ready to play.
Glenbard West is lucky that it's cooler outside, so that bus is not extremely hot. I would say that's a little beneficial. It's been cool throughout the whole day, and we weren't sure, if there'd be storms that work their way in. Is score? I think that was Lance McCann.
It was. We have a new Duke on the scoreboard. Only took 9 goals to get the first one that didn't come from Madsen or Siegenthaler. And now we could still say that all 3 goal scorers, 9 goals here, all have come from juniors and now a sophomore. This is going to just be an amazing season this year. We're going to have another great season next year. If all goes to plan, this Duke's program is looking to be built not only for now, but for the future under Coach Canfield.
As we'll take a break after McCann scores. It is 9-2 York, 5:41 to go here in the third quarter on YSN.
We're back, coming out of the break. Bobby doing a little bit of weather research. Little fun fact about my booth mate, Bobby Hessling. If he didn't take up the sports broadcasting in college, he does have interest in
Meteorology.
Yes, meteorology. I could see it being a weatherman. It's still in the books. You never know.
If we were, for any event, well, that's outside, if we were to go into, like, a weather delay of some sort, I would plug in my computer, and, I would be saying, like, this is what we're seeing right now, and kind of talking about that. That's what I would do.
I'm sure most of the people watching are here for the lacrosse content.
Most
there's
likely.
Certainly some people who would like to hear Bobby. Bobby's weathercast. Maybe that could up the viewership at YSN.
I would also be informing them of when the game would get back, if we were to get the chance. And
that is a compliment I'll give Bobby. He knows how to read a radar better than anyone I know. He'll be like, oh, this is what this color means. This is what that color means. So maybe he will be a meteorologist.
That'll be the second thing if this doesn't work out. It's Glenbard West moving along the crease, looking for something. They're just looking for a goal as they have been outscored. They've been outscored by 5. It was a 4-2 game, and then York goes on a 5-0 run, which is, we talk about runs much more of a basketball type thing, but the York has done just that, where everyone kind of stepped up after that second goal. I'm sure players just beats Selfridge to his right side, and Glenbard West, they finally get a goal. Back down 6 with 4:48, and that's what Glenbard West needed, but it's still kind of a long ways with this York team who has played at such a high level, both offensively and defensively.
And it's real interesting. I mean, that's now 3 times that when they're generating these shots on goal, they're going in, so all hope is certainly not lost. The candle is dwindling. The light is slowly closing on the door. But, I mean, when they're getting shots on Selfridge, they're going in. And the moral of the story at the end of the day is that cannot happen against Loyola. That cannot happen in the sectional tournament.
No, absolutely not. Can't happen in the state tournament.
If there is one.
Yeah, we're hoping one. We will see sectionals for sure, but we don't want it to end there. We want it to go all the way to state, which I believe is at Hinsdale Central. Again, I could be wrong about that. As Glenbard West they'll try to get their second straight goal.
This is something I just don't understand. This is now every possession that the Glenbard West goaltender is just standing at the 35. I do not see a strategy in that. I just really don't. It's going to tire you out running between the crease.
You would want to have that comfort of staying inside your crease because, it's a little bit easier instead of that was a nice interception.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. Swim move. He's still going.
Chase McNeil, he's trying to go coast to coast, moves it up. And a great pass and an even better save by the goalie with his stick right into his pocket.
And that great push, although it didn't result in the goal, really showed the power of an odd man rush. That was one of the only times tonight, believe it or not, with this 9-goal lead, we saw the Dukes generate an open look that fast.
Right, and that starts with Chase McNeil as a midfielder. So he just went coast to coast, made a swim move on a guy.
That swim dodge was nice.
That was something spectacular.
The lacrosse gods were definitely smiling down at him after that. I mean, that was textbook.
And then he made a great pass, York couldn't finish. And I would say, as we go back to that goalie who is at the 28-yard line, you would want to have that comfort of your crease because instead of just backpedaling, you have to backpedal 23 yards.
I just don't understand it. I'm sure there's strategy behind it. Maybe they, just in case the ball goes over the half line, they want a fourth guy there. But even that makes no sense because then if you lose the ground ball, the Dukes have a free goal. So
right.
I don't get it.
That was a nice save by Selfridge. Because he had to jump to make that save, which he didn't want to get that beat over his head, so why not jump and make a save with stick and helmet?
It looks like that's exactly what the Hilltoppers were fearing here down 6. If Selfridge is getting his footing, we've seen how great of a goaltender he could be, not only in these games but at the JV level as a freshman because his sophomore season, of course, was canceled due to COVID. We've seen what he could do. We've seen him on New Wave Lacrosse. We've seen him in all these programs. We know exactly what's possible from this kid. if he's back on track, this is going to be trouble for the Hilltoppers. Oh, and that's a great interception, but it's recovered.
Pass just a little too high in it. Will it go out? They're going to keep it with York. The York fans wanted a penalty. Yeah, I think that could have gone either way on that one. Is York with a chance to score?
Man, that would have been nice. Rieger was just sitting there waiting for the tap-in.
And in Rieger again, and York will move it around. How they usually do it is Tommy Kowalski.
The Dukes are definitely not a team that plays with any sort of rush. They really keep that pressure low. They just pass it around the horn a few times, let everyone get their footing, and then if they still don't get the rotations they like, then they'll do their one-on-one moves. They'll switch, they'll swim dodge, as we saw earlier.
Did Rieger score? He did not.
Rieger's had a few of those close ones tonight.
He has, and that was very close. You mentioned they don't play with a rush. I think that's primarily because they don't want to get sloppy.
Exactly. They are a team that is all about class, all about the fundamentals and the textbook plays of lacrosse, and it certainly worked out for them tonight. Up 9-3 with 43 to go in this third quarter.
Third quarter's gone by a lot quicker than the first two did. I can say that. Is a flag, it flies in, so Glenbard West will go down a man. Is Rieger.
That was a beautiful toss to the flag. Oh, wow.
Score.
That was nice.
Another goal. Waiting to see who that was. Was that Drew Kircher? 2 in white? Our camera guy doesn't know. That might have been Drew Kircher.
It's hard from this press box. You've got a few window panes in your way. I don't know how to describe it. These big staffs covering what you're trying to see.
And you're also not right there.
Exactly. You got the bird's eye view, which in a way is nice. You get an eye on the action at all times, but a lot of the time it's hard to see the numbers from up here.
Right. I'll have to bring a pair of binoculars to kind of get a thing. Nonetheless, it's another York goal to make it a 10-3 ball game with 25 seconds left.
20 seconds to go. Hilltoppers looking to get anything going here, down by 7. Who wants to be the hero going into this fourth quarter? Who wants to get the momentum started? Only time will tell. They're looking to rip it. Goes out of bounds. Looks like a Hilltoppers closest, but there's only 9.6 to go.
You wonder how much they can get, and Glenbard West hasn't had that many looks inside. As just went right by McCann and shot another one that just goes wide of the net, and 1.7 left, so probably not much we'll see.
That was the exact inside look they were looking for. Just misfired a bit. Leads to the Dukes maintaining that 7-point lead going into the fourth quarter. If you're just tuning in, Dukes 10, Hilltoppers 3. York Sports Network, your place for all York sports. We'll be right back after this quarter intermission.
Start of the fourth quarter, Glenbard West they won the face-off.
And, they're down 7, but that's something they've certainly done well. After the first quarter, they have dominated the draw. It's certainly come to bite the Dukes in the butt a bit. I mean, we've seen a few times now that they've been able to generate those looks off the face-off. That's a great save from Connor Selfridge. Pardon the late reaction. I think Bobby's trying to get a meteorologist update for you guys, but
I see rain coming down. I was wondering if there was any lightning in the. There is not, which is good. There is a long pass,
and everyone's holding metal poles. So
you stick that thing up in the air, it's not going to end well. That was a long pass, just trying to save it, and York will bring it up.
That was just an absolutely phenomenal save from Selfridge, who really turned it on in that second half of the third quarter and onward.
York, again, they will move it around the horn, what they do so well. As McCann thought about ripping it. And I think that's something else. So he fakes that rip as Tommy Kowalski shoots and he scores.
Wow, that was a nice move.
That was from about 15 yards out and took about 1-2 hops and found its way into the back of the net. And that's a good goal for Tommy Kowalski. But I was talking about Lance and the way he can have the ability to kind of like fake a shot, but then he can pass it out. I'm sure that keeps the defense on their toes. Like
really,
crazy.
Everything about this York offense is keeping the defense on their toes. There's nothing that this team does that's easy to stop. There's just so many assets. I mean, as we've really hit on, Troy Walker has really been exclusively an LSM for this game, just doing the face-off, getting a hit in like that.
I think he's going to get penalized for that.
Yeah, that was a high hit. That looked like it was a hit to the helmet. But we've only seen him play LSM. He really only plays the face-offs coming off the field again here because of that penalty. He's another offensive weapon for these Dukes, who already have an 8-point lead. I mean, the Dukes, Coach Canfield, really have potential to get shifty, get crafty in any position. They have so many options. They can play people around. This team just has so many options. It's hard to find a flaw.
It is hard to find a flaw within this York team. A lot of people, they like to point fingers at, goalies saying that Connor is a little inexperienced. Granted, this is his first season of varsity. I think he had a full season last year, along with Patty Tooley. You have a very good 1-2 combo at goalie.
Absolutely. That 1-2 combo is great because it keeps teams on their heels. We've seen a lot more Selfridge than Patty this season, but teams never know who they're going to go against in the cage, and that's really hard to plan against because obviously both goaltenders have very different strategies. See Selfridge coming out of the goal a lot more behind the crease, whereas Patty more in the crease and likes to clear it out in front. Looks like the Dukes will get a chance to clear.
Assuming they can, Puckett put on a nice spin move and gets across the midline.
Careless pass.
That was a high pass, and Siegenthaler just couldn't grasp it the whole way.
Gives the Hilltoppers a chance. Siegenthaler immediately applying pressure, attacking those wrists.
And the goalie was in no man's land in that play.
I'm just waiting to see the Dukes really capitalize on that. We saw it on the Ryder goal, but if I'm Canfield, if this was a closer game, the timeout's being called, and it's just attack that goalie and get that ball in the net. Still standing out near the 30-yard line.
Absolutely. Glenbard West trying to get something going. It is as they are down 8 and to have back-to-back performances where they have just, I wouldn't say this so much as a blowout. It's definitely getting there. It kind of feels like that since the field has been tilted so much to York is.
Exactly. I mean, even though this Hilltoppers team has 3 goals, we've really seen the Dukes have possession of the ball for 95% of this game.
Oh, yeah.
They've just had possession. They've applied the pressure. They've kept the ball in the zone. They've been able to pass it around, take their time, whereas the Hilltoppers, just like that, seem to force looks.
Airmail that one is, I think it just came out of his stick a little funny.
Might have to do with the rain. Maybe the ball's getting a little greasy.
Yeah, maybe.
Either way, that was field goals up and good.
Full on airmail that. He was trying to get that onto Spring Road. With 8:20 left, Espinoza with his red and black stick kind of gets cornered.
That's a great job by the Hilltoppers to maintain possession. It looked like Espinosa had a chance to clear, but they doubled him in the corner, ended up blocking the pass and generating an offensive look that's eventually saved by Selfridge.
Yeah, that was a nice save by Selfridge with his stick, and he gets a chance to clear. And
it's a great pass.
Puckett couldn't corral, but still, the pass was effective. Got to what it had to do, and now York sets up an offense where Chase McNeil looks like he'll be at the helm.
Selfridge really showing the fundamentals out here. Playing in the crease, clearing like that, where you see the Hilltoppers much more aggressive approach, letting the goalie come out and almost play a bit of deep hole himself, trying to cradle through the defenders, force turnovers. Dukes haven't been able to capitalize too much so far, but I think any lacrosse fan or just sports watcher in general could tell you how dangerous a goalie that far out of the crease is.
A shot, and they score again. I think that was Mattson with another goal. Is that 5 for him?
It's a lot.
It's a lot. We'll say that.
It's a lot. We don't have our stats guy here, but I'll tell you, it's either 5 or 6 now for Mattson, maybe with a double hat trick. Wish we could throw our hats on the field. Not as much of a tradition as it is in hockey, especially also, in a stadium. I don't know.
Our hats would get to the glass, and
not much further. We just throw it off the glass up here in the booth, but.
Also, if the fans, they would be throwing it more onto the track than the actual field.
Yeah. It was fun in theory, all right?
Yeah, it was. I wonder if they do that in high school hockey, if they get a hat trick. Do fans throw their hats on the ice?
I would assume.
I've never been to a high school hockey game, so I would not know.
Oh, wow. I've been to a fair share of high school hockey games, really? But I'll tell you what, it's hard enough to get a hat trick at the highest of levels. It's even harder at the high school level. I mean, unless if you're just absolutely blowing a team out, it's a tiring sport. The guys are on and off the ice. I mean, shifts in hockey, a long shift's a minute, 2 minutes.
A minute and a half,
2 minutes is a very long shift.
Yeah.
So the kids get tired, especially at this age. I mean, it's near impossible to score a hat trick. So I've been to a fair share, haven't witnessed one. But I assume, why not let the fans throw the hats on the ice? That's the fun. That's why it's called the hat trick. That's why the 3 goals is so famous in every sport that, has 3 goals.
Right.
Hockey revolutionized that.
It's a York penalty, so Glenbard West is going to be a man up.
I'll tell you what, for how many penalties York's committed, the Hilltoppers have had a really hard time capitalizing on those. If you do that against a higher class team, that's just going to be no bueno.
Oh, yeah, I think when they go back into film and watch this, they're going to say that some of this is unexcusable. Yeah, I mean, some officials, they might let you get away with some of that stuff. But you can't have that be the case in some of these games, because that will just end up being bad for you down the stretch, especially into playoff games when they have the top tier officials. Not saying that some of these officials are bad, but you have the top tier officials who might just be a little more strict.
Either way, if you see that the officials are consistently calling penalties on a certain kind of hit, you've kind of got to adjust to that. I'm sure Canfield will preach the discipline to them. I mean, no reason to be picking up all these penalties. You just got to prepare yourself for later in the season when these big tournaments come, and hopefully the Dukes make a deep run.
Glenbard West trying to get something going offensively. Just got met by Espinoza. It's something funny, seeing a guy just meet up with EJ. I think what you have to do is you have to talk to EJ before the game, and then you play him. I feel like that would be something, as Troy is working his way in.
That is a interesting point I never thought of. You talk to EJ before the game, EJ Espinosa, that is. Oh, you're the starting defenseman? Oh, I'll match up with you. That does not go well. I'll tell you what, that's not going to work out for you if that's your game plan, because EJ will lay you out.
You're just 6 minutes in, and you're like, oh my goodness, how is this kid so physical?
He's the definition of flipping a switch when he's out there on the field. He puts on an entire different persona. He is just a ruthless mauler out there.
Absolutely.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, I remember the first time I met EJ. I was like, "How you play lacrosse? Are you sure?" And I saw him play. I was like,
"You asked him if he was sure." Yeah,
I think it was more. I think it was more.
I'm pretty sure of the sport I play.
I think it was me kind of questioning myself. Like,
yeah.
Am I believing this or not? And sure enough, what we've seen for him is he's been spectacular. A much better second coming. As here comes Kircher.
And the rain is coming down out of nowhere.
It is.
Bobby, the meteorologist, didn't see this coming. Are they going to get off the field? It looks like they won't. They're playing through it.
There's no lightning.
This is heavy rain, though. I mean, if this was before the game, you'd imagine it would get canceled. You see fans already starting to leave.
They're taking shelter.
They're up 9. The fans are like, why? What do we have in this? They're all trying to come by the booth. You see a lot of them leaving.
We're protected.
We're
that
protected
shot
up in
goes
this booth.
wide.
And I'll tell you what, people want to have us up on there. I'm really happy we're not up on the roof in this rain right now with all the tech trying to shovel it down.
Yeah, that would be. And then you have to. No, we're comfortable in here. We got a timeout with 4:10 left, and we're going to just watch the rain come down at this point. So we got fans just waving at us. Okay, yeah, it's
a little
wet out
jealous
here.
We're up here in the booth.
Yeah.
But 4:10 to go. Duke's on top 12-3 at this little rain timeout. We'll take a timeout as well. York Sports Network, AJ Swiatek, Bobby Hessling. We'll be right back after this timeout.
Out of the timeout, Glenbard West had the ball. They didn't get much going as the rain is.
You know, I don't know if the camera's doing this any justice. It's not like we're using a Broadway quality camera, but it is pouring buckets right now. The fans pulling out umbrellas, sitting under the hood, doing anything to watch their Dukes come out on top here, up by 9. This is one for the ages. Bobby said maybe we'll be witnessing a classic, and I think it might go down for this rain. April showers bring May flowers. We finally got them this late in the month, and there's a flag up in the air. Seen a lot of those tonight.
Another Glenbard West penalty. Yeah, this is something. I'm sure York is just going to try to milk as much clock as possible, being up 9. You're looking through the raindrops. You can't see a thing.
So I was just going to say, we were already mentioning it's kind of hard to see the numbers. Now I'm trying to look at this rain-covered press booth. It's even harder. But thankful for what we have here at the York facilities, that's
absolutely.
For sure. Rieger loses possession, gets it back. You were absolutely right, Bobby. They're just trying to milk the clock here. They don't want to stand in this rain any longer than the fans do. Give up possession. Flag is called. Glenbard West will head to the box. Dukes with possession, up a man, 2:47 to go, 12-3. Bobby, the rain might steal the show here at the end, but that is not to discount how great of a performance we saw, not only from Ryder Madsen, not only from Will Siegenthaler, but the entirety of this Dukes team. We're witnessing something special here, Bobby, and I know you have a edition of the schedule. We've looked at some of the teams that we have coming up. This is going to be extremely interesting. I mean, there is real potential for this Dukes team to have a very long stretch without picking up a loss. I'll let you pull it up right now, but this is going to be interesting. I want you to give your opinion on that when we get a chance. It looks like both teams go into the huddle again.
Yeah,
I'm sure the players aren't too happy with these timeout calls in the rain. They want to get it going.
They want to, like, okay, let's pack this up and get out of here, and a score that is like this. York's next 3, they're home versus LT on Saturday. That game will be at noon, again, here on YSM. Then they travel to Oak Park, who Oak Park, I would say, is not the best team. No disrespect to them whatsoever, but it's They're much more of a newer, younger program. And then Hinsdale Central to wrap things up. So 3 conference opponents. And, if York can win all 3 of these conference games, they're 6-0 by the end of not this Saturday, but next Saturday in conference. And that'd be something huge. To be 6-0 in conference, Coach Canfield's always talked about it. He wants to win conference again, but it just doesn't stop there for conference. You want to do other things too, like win sectionals and hope you can participate in the state tournament.
Absolutely, and this is going to be a special season for the Dukes. I can only say it so many times, but you have to begin to agree with me after you witness what me and Hessling have witnessed so much so far in this booth, both at home and on the road. That's a rip.
Misses wide right.
Was that Drew Kircher? I think it was.
I think it was.
I was wondering why they're ripping, but I think they want to get some more guys, some goals. Why not 2:20 to go? Why not get this lead to 10?
This is the first game that York has had that is not a put in slaughter rule effect, oddly enough. But that just shows how good Glenbard West is at times. Granted, you look at the score, you're like,
well, you look at if you don't say who they're playing, you look at Glenbard West, you see they lose their first game 15-4, the second one already 12-3.
Right.
With 2 minutes left, it's like, all right, like this team seems to be pathetic. This is a very quality Glenbard West team. Believe it or not, losing by 11 to New Trier sometimes is a compliment to your squad. That's how special that team is. And the Dukes are putting on a beating of their own, already up 9.
Again, it was just, is that just too high? It was just a mixture of a few things, one of which is, that's another goal. Do you know who scored that? Was that 19?
I'll get a closer look. I'll pull out the binoculars here. That was buried. I didn't think it was 19. I'll be able to tell you in a second here. I'm going to zoom in on that. I don't know.
You don't know.
Through this rain, it's tough. But all I'll tell you is a Duke just scored.
It is 13-3 with a minute 37 left.
Minute 37 to go. Duke's now up by 10. As Bobby mentioned, this is the first time we've witnessed the Dukes not slaughter rule a team and put the running clock into effect. But a 10-point lead over a team like Glenbard West, who Glenbard West, all respect goes out to the Hilltoppers. They really have great programs, both academically and athletically, in pretty much every category of the field. Mm-hmm. So all respect to them. But to be able to put a beating on a team like this, by 10,
that really gives you confidence heading into some of these next few games.
That is a statement win.
Oh, absolutely. And Glenbard West has been like a perennial team at the past multiple seasons. They've won conference multiple times, as that check goes by. They were back-to-back Final Four teams when it first became an IHSA sport.
Absolutely. And you see Glenbard West, out of these next 3 York games, LT, OPRF, and Hinsdale Central, this may very well be the best team York plays in that span.
Yeah, there's another goal. Don't know who scored that one.
I think that's Ryder again.
I wouldn't be shocked.
I think it is, but we apologize for the
14-3. York may put in that running clock. 12.
Could is that what they're putting up all these goals for? They want to be able to say they slaughter ruled every team. Why not? Why not?
It's so much confidence. You just have to hope they play with this throughout the whole season, the whole rest of the season. That is, because you don't want to get hot now. You want to get hot in late May when your schedule really begins to ramp up. And it's like, okay, you have like 15-point wins over St. Ignatius, Downer South, and Hinsdale Central.
I'll tell you what, you want to be hot then. Why not be hot now too? Run it all the way through. This Dukes team has potential to be special all season long. You'll be witnessing it on York Sports Network. 40 seconds to go here. Looks like the Dukes are just going to let Glenbard West run down the clock unless they want to take matters into their own hands. It looks like they may want to get a shot off. Now under half a minute to go, Bobby. Dukes likely going to walk away with an 11-point win unless the unfathomable happens and somehow Glenbard West scores another goal.
That would be. But for Glenbard West, that would be back-to-back 11-point losses, and I think they're just going to hold on to it. But you played the first team in the state, and you played the 5th team in the state, and those are your first 2 games of the season. All that does for you is just build confidence. So it's a big win here for York. They win 14-3 over Glenbard West. I won't say a monumental win, but it's a good win.
Going into tonight, I asked Bobby what he would expect from this one. I hadn't done as much research on the Hilltoppers as he has. Of course, Bobby is the the manager for this Dukes lacrosse team. Yeah. So I hadn't done as much looking up. Bobby said, I expect this to be a good competitive game. So the fact that Dukes walk away with an 11-point statement win, just like New Trier, walk away with that same differential, I mean, it's impressive. It shows they're on that same tier as New Trier, at least you'd imagine. And New Trier's #1 in the state, according to multiple sources.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they've been there forever. Duke's the challengers looking to get themselves up there. Why not pick up an 11-point win in front of the home fans? To everyone who came out tonight, everyone who watched York Sports Network, we really appreciate the endurance. Everyone out here in the rain sticking around to watch. There's still a good crowd out here waiting for their children. It's been great, guys. York Sports Network, AJ Swiatek, Bobby Hessling will be on the call for all sports and all sorts of lacrosse this season as well. Bobby, it was a good time. We'll be back. This is going to be going into the summer as well. York Sports Network, signing off.